family. Welcome to today's stream. Today, we are going to discuss the hottest topic right now, OpenUSD. And we are honored to have with us today our newest Omniverse ambassadors who are going to show us how they use OpenUSD to solve, real world problems using Omniverse. And it is going to be awesome, guys. I got to sample some of the stuff and it is amazing. But before we get started, Edmar, what are some announcements our crew needs to know?
I'm gonna try to do it the fastest I've ever done before because this live stream is jam packed with these amazing guests. So I'm gonna go super quick. All right, we had Revolution on the stream a couple weeks ago because last week with Jay Selena, we talked about the updates of Revolution connector and LiveSync. Super awesome live stream. We'll post a link in the chat in a few minutes. We are definitely really excited about everyone taking full advantage of that added connectivity to Revolution. Revolution just keeps knocking out of the park with these updates. Anyone who's working on characters, definitely check out Revolution's latest stuff. Really awesome. Of course, we're still kind of hung over a little bit from the great excitement of SIGGRAPH, and we'll talk in a second about OpenUSD, but we had some really great announcements there. We have an informative post on the forums that Amelia crafted that breaks everything down that's Omniverse related. We also touched this a couple weeks ago in our live stream. We talked about what's coming with ChatUSD that's in development, a lot of platform updates, big ones actually. RunUSD, which is a USD validation service, super helpful, and obviously the configurator, which is beautiful, and everyone should definitely check it out. Speaking of great guests, we also released at SIGGRAPH our ebook, OpenUSD All Stars. So this is one of those old school ebooks, but still very cool to thumb through and check it out when you don't want to browse online, when check something in PDF format. But it's very cool. You'll recognize a lot of these folks in this ebook because they're really superstars of the Omniverse platform, really doing and building really great stuff. So you'll recognize some of those names on the screen, including Michael Wagner, Ping Fen Wu, who won a contest, and Vanessa Rosa, who is an amazing artist doing super creative stuff. And then, as I just mentioned a second ago, this was talk of the town in LA during SIGGRAPH, the Alliance for OpenUSD. Indeed, Pixar, Adobe, Apple, Autodesk, along with NVIDIA, are a part of the Alliance, and this is super exciting. This is a transformative thing across many industries. We are posting a link in a few minutes to find out more information about those activities and the different forums you can chat on it about. You're going to see a lot of different discussion on not only our live streams, but also just on our blogs and stuff about how awesome this is for the world. So that is Alliance for OpenUSD, super exciting. And then this is in its final weeks, actually. We extended it, actually. We're getting so many cool contributions. We don't want to see them stop. This is the start to finish community challenge, which is those moments in time when we ask you to share your work. We would love to see how something started and the original inspiration for it, and then where it ended up. And this is, of course, from none other than Jay Dizzle, the materials guy over at Nike, really awesome developer who was kind enough to let us use this image. And as you could see from the bottom of the screen there, he used a ton of apps, and that's like the power of USD right there. So really excited. I hope you all post your stuff there. Just post on social media and tag start to finish. And I think that was the quickest I've ever done it, but at least I tried.
That's pretty fast. Pretty fast.
All right, good. And I hope it was still helpful. So Amelia, big thanks to Amelia. She's helping in the background, posting all those links. We have a great stream today. We have never done this before, actually, and that is actually so. We have a group of people who we have recognized over the years since Omniverse started, called ambassadors. These are ambassadors from the community who are really instrumental to the growth and awareness and celebration of the Omniverse and now OpenUSD. Typically, our ambassadors are someone that might show up in a user group or you see them on a blog, but we thought it would be really great to actually introduce them in real time. So I'm very happy to announce our next 3 Omniverse ambassadors in community. Joining me right here, we have Alberto Arenas, we have Eric Kraft, and then we have Islam Ibrahim, who can't show his camera right now because he's having some bandwidth issues and he wants to save it for his presentation in a minute. But each of you have done some amazing things, and we're going to go through some of your work in a few minutes. But I really want to congratulate you. And just to further expand on ambassadors, we actually just set up a new section of the community website with a nice anchor link. So you can go right to the ambassadors section. So we'll post that link in the chat. But you'll be able to see about all of our ambassadors, including our existing ambassadors, including Michael Wagner, who I mentioned a minute ago. And like I said earlier, these are folks who have really embraced the platform and doing some really forward-thinking, creative, educational things. They're sharing their knowledge with the world. Chris Scott actually has set up multiple companies around Omniverse and USD. And these are great resources, not only for the community, but for other companies. We're finding very much so that companies are tapping these ambassadors for their expertise. So we're really happy to recognize their great skill and expertise, but also, to me, one of the most important things is their nature of giving and their great positive personalities. So really honored to have each of you here today. Thank you for joining us. We have a special guest also here. And is he here? Yes, he is here. I see him. I see him. I see his tag there in the bottom. But yes, we have none other than Mr. Omnivore himself, otherwise known as Dave Tyner. Dave Tyner, we wanted to have you on here. Thanks for jumping on, Dave. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me on, Edmar. Really an honor.
It's an honor for us because you have been doing some amazing things always, but lately you're doing a lot of stuff. I don't know if you could share the kind of stuff you're working on, but why don't you tell everybody about your background at NVIDIA and what you do on the Omniverse team?
Sure. So, hi, everybody. I work here at NVIDIA on the development team, and mostly around creating content and developing workflows, USD workflows, which is really great for what Alberto is going to be presenting. Yeah, so doing USD workflows, and it's not just about getting a model into your DCC tool into Omniverse, but then what happens to it? How do you construct it in a way that's good for collaboration, extensibility, non-destructive workflows, things like that. And I'm not sure if I can talk about what I've been working on lately.
That's okay.
It's fine. You can share it with us. We won't tell.
Okay. Well, it has to do with the cloud, a lot to do with the cloud. And so
nice.
Really, really exciting things that are happening there that we can't wait to talk about for sure.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dave, for coming today. I wanted to have you specifically because not only have you been kind of instrumental in educating the Omniverse community about multi-user collaboration and live sync, you have worked very closely with our first presenter and ambassador. We're going to talk about Alberto Arenas, coming to us from Spain. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got to know Alberto, and then we'll have Alberto introduce himself after that.
Absolutely. How much time do we have?
As much time as you need.
I got 2 minutes.
Dave, remember, under promise, over deliver.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna skip the sushi story. Okay. I'm gonna skip the sushi story. All right. No. So Alberto and I met at Autodesk. We were both kind of doing AR, VR for enterprise customers, and it was interesting because although we weren't working in opposing groups, we were working in groups whose borders were a little bit ill-defined, and there was some crossover there. So it wasn't adversarial by any means, but I felt like it was competitive, like I was competing with his group. And until fate intervened and brought us together, and we started working together very closely on a holodeck. If you guys are familiar with NVIDIA Holodeck, it's the VR platform that NVIDIA developed on Unreal Engine a few years ago, and it's amazing. Probably the most amazing VR experience we had at the time, and probably ranks really highly even still today, even though it hasn't been developed on that platform in a while. But we found it. We went and presented to a bunch of enterprise customers at Autodesk University. This really awesome thing that we had developed over the year, and Alberto was absolutely instrumental in that. I tell you what, the guy's forgotten more about this industry than I'll ever know, and Alberto actually in that experience spent 40 hours in VR in 3 days, and I remember at the end his eyeballs were just like red cue balls or something. It was pretty incredible. But then we, continue our relationship with NVIDIA. We got an early build of Omniverse, a really early build. And I just remember the first time we set up this private network and we were collaborating on this 3D scene in real time. And it was just as mind-blowing as the first time I tried VR, that, I'm sitting there manipulating some object, and while he's doing lights and creating an environment and painting trees and doing all these all these things are just appearing on my screen as I'm working. And I remember feeling very giddy about that. But our paths parted for a little while until late last year when we started talking again, and he said, I really want to check out Omniverse, see where it's at, compare it to where it was when we were working with it. Because again, we were working with it very early days. And as usual, within a couple months, I'm sitting there learning so much about USD from him, even though, I got him started on a couple things, but then after that, he's talking about structure and how we're supposed to be creating stages, like I said, for collaboration and all those things. And since then we've just been working together pretty consistently. And I'm really excited for what he has to present today. He's an amazing man and genius dude, and I'm super happy. Congratulations, Alberto, for your ambassadorship.
Thank you very much, Dave. I really appreciate the introduction. Thank you.
That's great. Okay, so Alberto, now the mic is yours. Tell us a little bit like kind of what you're up to now, what your business is, and then let's see some magic.
Yeah. So look, I mean, as Dave said, I got into Omniverse just because I'm in the industry. I'm in the M&E industry. I work for a company and a developer and a supervisor. But I was in this point that I really want to learn USD, right? I mean, it was something like a year ago, and then they said, look, this is the platform, go there, right? And since then, it's been this awesome ride, right? Because I think there's nothing better than USD Composer to learn, play, and understand USD. I mean, I'm telling you, there is, the composition arcs, is something that is very abstract, right? When they explain it to you, when you go through the documentation of Pixar, it's just sometimes too much for your brain, right? But when you start playing it, when you start putting it together, when you start, using, this tool, everything makes sense, right? And since then, my passion has been about that, how to, continue learning USD, playing with this tool, and then also communicating to a lot of artists, a lot of developers that they still, having this gap of know how is and know how to do things, right? And that's it. It's been my journey. I really love not only the basic layers of USD, but everything that NVIDIA is doing, adding simulation, which is awesome, and the action script. I think that's probably the most awesome thing that NVIDIA has done there. And if you put that together with the RTX render, as I say, you get in USD Composer and you spend hours and hours and hours and hours. And that's been my experience. And what we've been trying to do together with Dave is to communicate that, and because I love these live streams. I love the style Dave put in this live stream. It's very casual, but you can do a lot of stuff together. And it's been a lot of fun. So that's my business, enjoying this community, doing things, trying to share it and learning a lot of USD.
Well, that is awesome. Speaking of which, you gave us a little bit of a sneak peek earlier of what you'll be showing today. And I think it's going to be very helpful for all creators and developers out there. And that is the importance of publishing when it comes to USD. So when you're ready, feel free to share your screen and we will make sure everybody can see it.
Okay, let's do that.
And for anyone in the chat, absolutely feel free to ask questions along the way. We have a few people watching, so we should be able to answer things in real time. And if not, we may hang out a few minutes afterwards on Discord if time permitting.
Okay, so great. So today, again, I wanted to share with with all the audience here a little bit about USD asset publishing good practices. We're not going to go in depth. This will take hours, right? But I just want to bring this thing that is important about understanding that when you publish something in USD, it's good to consider that as an asset, something that you created, that is property owned, that has value, right? And we need to make a difference between your work scene and your publisher scenes, right? Your work scene is where you produce all this content, you put it all together, and the structure of the USD scene there might be different than what you want to publish for people to use your content, to collaborate with your content. And this is a process that we usually forget. So today I'm going to put a couple of examples around this content that is available in in the demos area of this is the Cloudmaker scene that is provided by NVIDIA. And I think it's a great example of to see what is a scene that is pretty much what I say, a work file. And then I'm going to show you how to go from this scene to the publishing of the different assets, and hopefully a little bit of how to leverage layers and variants and composition arcs in USD. Okay, so we're going to start with the Cloudmaker. This is something that if you create a local Nucleo server, you will be able to access through NVIDIA, demos, Cloudmaker, and you double click on this one, you open the original file, and you will get this beautiful scene, right? And as you see, it's a nice asset here that has a lot of different assets, right? And what you see here is a typical way what I'm seeing things being published, right? So you see the scene and you have kind of a reference for each of the elements here, right? But the challenge that we have with this is that ideally, right, you would like to be publishing each of these elements at a specific props, right? It's good to have a location with all these composed, right? But you need to see this as seen as different elements and different props, right? So, for example, in this scene, you see that the fact that the bridge is being brought as a reference is, it's following a good practice. It's not a mesh here. There is another USD file that is being used. And in order to see which is the file that is being used, you go here to references, right? And you see that this information that you're seeing here is not actually in this scene. It's a reference to another USD, right? If I click here, it will bring me to that USD file. And as you see, the Cloudmaker scene is here in this folder. And then you have another folder with the models, right? That's pretty cool, right? You have the location, and then you have the different elements in different files. That's a good way to publish. The only challenge that I see here, right, if I go to this scene and I open the bridge, you will see something interesting, right? I'm going to save this one. So we're going to bring this. This is what I will call an asset. And the first thing you're going to see is the asset is not in the center of the scene, right? I will need to scroll, right? And if I click it here, this asset is being published with the not in the origin, right? So there is a distance there. And it's going to make it very difficult for someone that get this bridge to position it in the scene. Why is that? Because this distance is actually the distance from the center of the Cloudmaker scene to the position of the bridge, right? The other thing that you see is the asset is not self-contained. Somehow the materials are not here, right? Probably in the materials haven't been assigned properly to this geometry, or the shaders are not correct, right? So this is very important, right? If you're going to publish this asset, you need to make sure that it's self-contained, that the position is centered here in 000, and that all the textures and everything that is needed to load is there, right? So what I'm going to show you right now is how you can go through a publishing process and produce a completely different publication of this bridge, right? So what you see in here is a repository that I've created that for me would be a good way to publish this full location, right? The first thing that you do is you create your repo and you have a folder for assets. And in the assets, you have lighting assets, location assets, props, and then you have volumes. I will show you why we have volumes. So then each element of the location, you should put it here in props. And then if I come here to the bridge, right, the first thing that I'm going to see is a bridge asset, right? This is the USD that is basically a container, right? If I click on this USD and you open it, on the right, you're going to see that is composed of 2 layers, right? The layers is the first composition arc that you need to learn in USD, right? And it's very simple, right? You decompose this asset into its main components. So the first thing that this asset is composed is the geometry, and that's why we have this geometry layer here. And then the second layer that we have is the look, is the shaders, right? So the good thing about taking all that information about the bridge and breaking it down in 2 different layers is because now I can, hide this information and be able to inspect the geometry, isolate it from the look, right? And also I can make sure that these layers only contain the right information, right? If you share your assets following this, this pattern of using layers and adding in each layer the specific information, right? It will make it easier for people to collaborate. Because, for example, if I want to edit anything on the look, I just double click on the layer, and everything that I do in the scene here, okay, it will be only impacting the look, right? So that will enable, for example, an artist that is working in this scene to be editing the look, while another artist can open the bridge asset, and instead of working on the look, they can double click on the geom and edit the geometry, right? And this is a good pattern or good practice to have, right? You take your asset and then you break it down into its main components, geometry and look, and then you create 2 different layers here that contain that information, and then you structure it with this layer approach, right? So this is, one thing I wanted to show, and as you see, this is a completely different way to publish it, and everything is super structured. The USD asset is the entry point to your asset. The geometry has only geometry, the look has only materials, and all the textures needed for that materials are included here in the looks, right? So if you go back to the way it's published here, you will see that it's a little bit more different. It doesn't include all the elements, and it's a little bit cumbersome, right? So that is one good trick on publishing, assets. Okay.
We have a quick question.
Yes.
Quick question. It's a good point to answer this one.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you do the looks assignments, in the main file or in the looks layer?
Oh, okay. So you will do the assignment on the looks layer. So let's go back to the bridge, right? So if you open the bridge, the idea is that the geometry layer should only have the geometry, right? Actually, I can, for example, let me just, this is something that usually happens when you work in collaboration, right? The modeler might create specific materials for modeling, right? And you will assign it here because the looks is a layer on top of the geometry. It can overwrite that information. And that is what exactly this thing that we're doing here, right? If we open the bridge looks layer, you will see that it contains 2 overrides, right? One override for the bridge, what is set in the material, and another override for the for the rivets and for the bridge. Okay,
Alberto.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Could you also add like a bindings layer in there if you wanted to do that?
If you want to do that, you can do that. But in this case, I think it's better to, and this is my approach, right? My understanding is the artist that is going to be working on the looks is probably going to be editing the materials and the bindings at the same time, right?
Mm.
So it's a good approach to put it here. It is true, Dave, that we can have a layer that contains add the materials, because this is interesting, right? If I hide this layer, you will see that the looks disappear. The only information that is in the stage is the geometry, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I add this layer add the looks, which are the materials, right? And the shaders with the textures, and also the overrides of the materials, right? And again, if you want to be a little bit geeky, you can click here and edit, right? And if you do that, you can look directly into the USD, which I somehow, let me see, I cannot.
Yeah, I think the main point is that OpenUSD gives you the flexibility to do it whatever way works for you.
Yeah. But again, the important thing is in this layer, the only information that we have is materials and the overrides of the assignment, the binding of these materials to the right geometry.
Okay, perfect. And just put some closure on that one. Brilliant.
Okay. Okay, perfect. The only thing I would like to share with you guys is another typical pattern, right? So when you, if we go back to the scene, right, the original scene, right, change anything here. There is something that I like a lot that you can do when you publish this thing this way, is that you can add more information on top of an asset. So for example, I can see this as a nice asset, which is a water mill, right? Right now, the way it's published here is only contain the geometry and the looks. And if I go to the water mill, it's not separating the information in layers, right? One really cool thing that you can do is extract all this information and structure it in your asset the way I'm going to show you here, right? So when you open this water mill, okay, what you're gonna see is that we have here 3 layers, right? Let me show you this. So we have the geometry layer. So if I activate this one, and the geometry layer is populating this part of the scene, the geometry. We have the looks, right, that is populating the look scope with the watermill material. And we also have an action graph, right? An action graph is a way to add behavior to an asset, right? So for instance, if this action graph that we have here is basically implementing, making the wheel to rotate, right? So I'm not going to get into the details of this one, but it allows you to define, this action does allow you to define the speed, right, in RPMs. So when I click here and play, you will see that the windmill moves, right? And this is super cool, right? Because in this asset that we're going to publish, right, we're adding the geometry in this layer, we're adding the looks in this layer, and in this layer, we're adding the action graph. So as you will see, if I hide the behavior and I click play, it won't move, right? Because the behavior is implemented in this layer, right? And if I want to publish it without this, I can do it. Then if I remove the looks, I remove the material. And of course, if I remove the geometry disappears, right? So as you see, this is a great way to leverage layers and leverage an action graph to enhance your asset, right? And this way, in any scene that you populate this asset, right, you will be able to get that behavior. So for example, if I create a new scene from scratch, right, and I bring this asset as a payload, right, and I get the default, right, I will, in this new scene, I can play, and this asset will move, right? So as you say, good practices and leveraging layers to keep adding more content, more value to your assets, right?
There you go. You have fans in the chat who agree and very thankful for this explanation. Really, really cool.
Okay, and I think I'm already gone over the time that I have. I could continue with more things, but I want to make sure that the rest of the ambassador have time to.
Yeah, well,
I
think what we talked about earlier is maybe we'll do a dedicated live stream because I think this is super helpful of
I
people
would
to really
love to see that,
understand.
Edmar. I would love to see that.
Well, from Dave to reality, then if Dave said it, it's going to happen. All right, so yeah, we'll schedule that. So look for that on Discord and our events calendar. But that's awesome. So thank you, Alberto. That was really fantastic, and really happy to have you as part of the ambassador team now. So let's jump on a flight and go from the beautiful country of Spain to the similar climate, probably state of Texas, in the United States, to Mr. Eric Kraft. Eric, you have done some amazing things also in Omniverse. One of the things that always struck me about your skill is that you're a fantastic teacher. And not only, I'm not just saying that, you actually taught a class at Autodesk University. You've done GTC sessions, and you continue to share your knowledge online and to the community. You're very active on our Discord server. Really, really awesome to see. So thank you so much for coming on today. Tell us a little bit about your background, because you work actually in a different industry, the AECO industry, as it's called, previously known as AEC. But we now use the O at the end for operations. But tell us about what that means and what your passion is there.
Yeah, so I've always had a passion for architecture. When I was growing up, anytime I went somewhere, you'd go inside a unique building and look around. So I was always drawn to architecture in some form. As an old coworker who actually thought about being an architect and decided not to and to go into visualization, said, I don't want to build the buildings. I just want to make them look good. So that's kind of the area I went. I've been in visualization for well over 20 years. I've worked in aviation. I spent 9.5 years at Bell Helicopter and then moved over to the architecture industry. And I've been in this industry for almost 8 years now, I believe. But what I find really interesting about doing XR and visualization and architecture is, unlike the media and entertainment where you're doing something for the big screen or TV or something like that, in AECO, you're doing something that's going to become something, right? It's going to be a real building. It's going to be a physical product of something like that. And what's really drawn me to the OpenUSD is the fact that it allows you, basically, as Alberto was talking about, to do what you need to do in the way that's best for you, right? For years, I've been working with other applications, and you kind of fall into it, and it's kind of like, okay, this is how you have to work. If you don't work this way, it's not going to work. Whereas OpenUSD brings you that big picture of, okay, here it is. And as I was thinking about this the other day, I was like, you know what? It's like a kit of Legos, right? You get a box of Legos. It comes with some instructions. You got all these pieces, and you can follow those instructions and put them together and get what you want. But you could also take this other set of Legos and pull the pieces out and put them together to make what you want. And that's something that I think is unique about NVIDIA Omniverse and OpenUSD, is you're not restricted. If Composer doesn't do what you need, great. Take out what you don't want, add in what you want. If it doesn't do what you need at all, use Kit, build your own app. And that's really the interesting part. And I really also like the idea of OpenUSD just because I'm a technical problem solver. And with OpenUSD, it's a binary file to be fast, but you can always open it as an ASCII file. So you can always get into the underlying what is happening in my file. Because I don't know how many times I've been working in an application and something crashes. And it's like, okay, is it the application or is it the data? With OpenUSD, you can get in and you can dig into where those issues may be and resolve them in some form or fashion. So let me do a quick little share here. Unfortunately, AEC is like a lot of industry, so I can't share a lot of the projects I'm working on because, lawyers and non-disclosures and things like that. But this was a little project that I took our office up in Middleton, and it's running a little slow because it's actually processing over 9,000 mesh objects from the Revit export. So using the Omniverse connector, I was able to take the Revit design model, bring it over into USD Composer, and then using the action graph, I was able to put this together in, I think it was like half an hour, an hour. You can see this is the full graph, and most of the work is not much. It's simply, right here, pause this real quick. So come over here, and it's just a matter of getting every object below, right up here, my main master file. Yep, I'm trying to break everything. Give me a second here.
This is a huge building.
It is a pretty big size building, and it's animating every piece of mesh within the hierarchy of the Revit file that I allowed it to process. Again, the nice thing is there was not a, this is how you have to do this. I literally was like, okay, you know what? Something I've had to do before is kind of like show a building onto a site or something like that. And usually it's like days of work to go in there and, script up something and animate all these parts and everything. And literally I just said, over here, give me every object below geometry, filter out some of the stuff like the grass here in the front and the things I don't want. Give me all the meshes. And then from here, I just read in the information, did some math for a new scale, put it back, and then wrote it back to the objects. And that's it. And, now it's playable, it's adjustable. I could have it on play. Right now, I've got it on change. So whenever this animated time value changes on the action graph, it'll update. But if I get outside my 0 to 24 range, it'll actually run at real time because it's not doing any calculations. So you can see, the animated environment and the skylight happening. But this is just a good example of, doing a time lapse animation and then looking beyond what, here are the tools, but, what can I do with the tools? How can I quickly go in and animate this without spending, days or weeks to try and figure it out? Like I said, it was, I think, within an hour of going, I want to try this. I had something that was working and functional. And as we were getting ready for the meeting, I added in some additional branches just to, make it a little bit quicker. And it was add a variable, add a node, add a branch, kick
That's
off
wild.
and go, and, nice and fast. And one of the other big things that I've been doing, especially at GTC, and I will, if somebody wants to put this in the chat, here's actually that's the link to my chat from GTC. What I was actually talking about is connecting open platforms through Omniverse. And part of that is OpenUSD. And I've actually had some great success with some of the partners that I started talking with. And one of those companies is Needle Tools that I presented, and what they've actually been doing and are really interested about is how can they integrate OpenUSD more. Their platform is a WebXR platform, and at let me pull this up here. So at GTC, during the demo, they showed, their little bike here, and then publishing out a WebXR experience. And they've moved on and they've continued developing it. And this is from another project from their company, Prefrontal Cortex, just showing how they're using Omniverse as their building platform, but they're publishing to a completely new platform because of the power of OpenUSD. And they've started doing a lot more work outside of the GLTF because of the power of the OpenUSD platform and what they can do with it. especially when you start talking about OpenXR, WebXR, things like that. Apple's AR platform is built on the USDZ, which is basically a zip version of OpenUSD platform. And more technologies are supporting it. So it's great to see other companies coming and adopting OpenUSD, as well as just what the community is doing with it as well.
Yeah, totally. I couldn't agree more. And while you're speaking, we had a nice guest come in the chat. Now you're a fellow Omniverse ambassador. We got Pekka Varis wants to welcome all the new ambassadors. Hey, Pekka. Pekka actually has this great startup called Cineshare. We're gonna cover that in a future episode more because they're doing some really cool stuff. But Eric, that's awesome. And we also have an AECO series for people watching who are in the AECO area. We have a playlist up on our YouTube channel. We did post a link to that GTC session that Eric shared. So definitely check that out. Eric, thank you so much for sharing this and for coming on today and for being such a great member of the community, a great mentor to people, and really, really awesome and psyched for the future and working with you more. Okay, so we're going to jump on the plane, and this probably was not the most efficient route from a jet fuel perspective, but we're going to go back down to, we're going to go over to the Cairo area in Egypt and say hello to our third Omniverse ambassador from the community we're announcing today, Islam Ibrahim. Thank you so much, Islam, for coming.
Thank you, sir, and hello for all of you.
It's really great, and I'll say this about Islam: like we've been working together for quite some time, and he's lots of cool daily chats on Discord and sometimes on LinkedIn. But really passionate developer like our other ambassadors. Really, not only diving in, doing so. I'll let him introduce his company, Meta Studios, in a second. But he's also been really creating some videos and sharing and doing meetups in the MENA region, which is fantastic. So if you're in that area of the world and you want to participate, definitely chat with us on the Discord channel. We do have a channel on Discord for different languages, including Arabic. So definitely check that out. And it's super exciting. So Islam, tell me a little about and everyone a little bit about your background, and then we'll dive into kind of the current work you're doing with Omniverse.
Okay, Meta Studio begins at 2016 by the HoloLens of Microsoft. We began to make visualizations of medical organs, but it was visualizations, not real scans. At this time, the HoloLens was very expensive, and we didn't succeed in that. After that, we make it as an AR for the apps of medical, and we began to work as we are working on AR for medical surgical planning till we partition with a platform called DICOM. We worked in converting the scans or the MRI and CT especially to 3D model. We decide to make an extension now to convert it to USD and put it in Omniverse. One of the benefits of USD for us is it's very light file. We can share it between doctors. We can share it between whatever the locations, whatever the number of doctors, and they can collaborate in surgery and preparation for it.
That is awesome.
Wow.
I think the benefit for collaboration is spans across industries, but I think for the medical, it's super exciting, and you're going to show us some of that visualization today. So feel free to share your screen whenever you're ready, and we will.
Okay,
everybody can see it.
Share my screen.
And then for everyone in the chat, keep the comments and questions coming. I love it. It's such a great discussion with everybody.
Okay. Here, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We upload the scans of anyone to the platform here. It take a folder and go to it. For example, we have the chest here. We have cases for other people. I'm going to work for the chest, and I'm going to get from it the lung, for example, by segmentation, and begin to convert it to USD. Then the segmentation, we will segment it for 2 pieces and prepare for an operation. Okay. For example, we can make a preview. If you do not know about the CT and the, okay, the CT and MRI, they are slices like that. These slices, we collected and began to make the 3D model to begin to be like that one. So after making that one, this is the slices here. I can make an orthogonal view. The orthogonal view, we began to use it to know precisely from which slide to which slide I'm going to segment the lung. For example, here, if I goes here, I will know that the segmentation between the end of the lungs here is 14. I mean 14 slice 14, and we began to go above till we take slice 73 and 75. This part. That means we are going to go here and our study and began to segment the process. We said we segmented with some algorithms, AI algorithms, to make a semi-segmentation. And I take the chest, began to take from, as I said, slide 13, for example. Oh, sorry for that.
It's okay. That's one of the benefits and caveats of live streaming.
Yeah.
Magic little.
Sorry.
It's okay. No, continue.
No worries.
So the DICOM Director platform, so that's available to the public?
Yeah, it's available by subscription.
Got you.
I don't know why it's won't work, but maybe the internet's too low here, so I'm very sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay. You could just talk. You could feel free to just talk us through. Whatever you can. It's okay if it's not able to show in real time.
Here is a chest, and we segment from slice 13, as we said, to slice 75. I took slice 13 here and put it as the first image, and go to 75 and put it the last image, and the chest. By using this, I will segment the scan to 3 pieces: the left lung, the right lung, and the piece of the air, which enter the air. So I do one, and we can make it by closing the motograph. It's a scientific here. We do 2, and we can make it, for example, like that, and 3. Okay, I am going to make it as a segment by adding. I mean that I am adding the pieces I want, and minus or subtract the pieces I don't want. For example, I don't want this piece, I don't want this piece, but I'm going to take this piece and this piece and this piece, and I do till 35% of the slices, which mean about 20 slices. I mean, it's very long situation, but I make here some other models. I prepare some other models, but there is, if you want to make it as a whole, I can make it. And we it's not a must that you share for each slide. You can make other slide from other slide, not all the slides. And we make something like that. And I make this one. We now order the model, and I do it. I save. It all give me that you must be at 35%. And it goes to the cloud. After a while, I got an email with that the model have been created. I went to here to the 3D models and began to download it. Here it's downloaded. I can see the picture of it. It looks like not very good, but it's the real one by the scan. After that, I archive. I go to downloads and go and extract file. Okay. Then that's one. I opened it in the Blender.
Very cool.
It looks like the lungs. It's not like that only, but we can go inside it to see
That's
from
wild.
the inner.
Whoa.
Not only from the outer. So I export it as a USD and projects. Let it belongs to or 1, 2. Okay.
All right. You get an MRI right after this live stream.
Yes.
Yeah. Everything is good. I can go to the root and begin to play with it as if it's good. What happened here is the segmentation itself. So I can make it for that and convert it like that.
Oh
and
my gosh.
After that, I can go inside every piece of it and prepare for my, if I am seeing a tumor here, I can go to inner and precisely take the tumor and begin to know how I am going to make the operation.
That is amazing.
Wow.
And after that, we can render it. The point here, we are going to render it as VR or AR to share it with other doctors, whatever the location. That's till now, that's the point. We want to make it live as we are building our extension, so we can take it from the platform to Omniverse automatically. That's for now.
It's really amazing. Very interesting work. Islam, thank you so much for sharing that. That is, I think we're a little bit blown away here. So let's collect ourselves.
Okay.
I have an MRI I need to send you, Islam. I'm just saying.
Okay.
That's wild. So right now, you're currently working with medical professionals.
Yeah, with doctors here in Egypt. Here in Egypt, they take the segmentation must done by a radiologist because he can read the scans, not me. But I trained on it. I trained to read it and make it as a trained. But the radiologist, when he do it more speed, more everything quick from me.
Wow, that's great. I mean, I think it's a super valuable tool, especially for collaboration. Yes, and here we go. Here's a nice comment coming in the chat right now. I'll share for everybody. That was indeed fast. That's
to make segmentation manual. Yeah.
pretty wild. Very cool. And so tell us about like, so you're working on the extension right now, or what's
Yeah,
next?
we are making an extension now between the platform and the Omniverse to make it live. Can be live changed from
I see.
the platform to the Omniverse, the changing itself.
Right. Yeah. That's pretty golden. And then you're also organizing meetups and places for people to come talk about USD and Omniverse ecosystem.
Yeah, that's happened here in Egypt. We make about 2 for now, and you all was in one of them.
I was.
Yeah, he was
Had a
here,
good time.
and Wendy also.
That was great.
Yeah.
So when your next one's coming up, when though?
I mean it's by the beginning of by the end of 9.
Okay, end of
Because
September.
we are going. I'm doing a competition now. We are going to introduce this sample.
Very
by
cool.
using the Omniverse.
So we answered this in the chat, but just for everyone who's listening, so if you look at the description for the video, the live stream, you'll be able to see everyone's contact information. If I don't have somebody's there, I'll update it afterwards, but I believe everybody's there. Islam is very accessible. Eric is also, Alberto is also, and I don't, Alberto, I don't know if you sleep. I don't know. I catch him in all different hours. But, same thing for Islam. But really, a huge thank you from the NVIDIA Omniverse team for you guys to come and show off your expertise and your knowledge, and just a celebration of what you've done already, and also just really excited for what comes next from each of you. Like I said earlier, we're really excited to work with you closer, and I'm sure the community is too. Definitely, everyone's watching, check out our community page. Scroll down to the ambassador section. You'll be able to see the different apps that they specialize in, and also some more background about them. Thank you each for coming. Really fantastic. Does anybody have any questions or last comments you want to share before we end today's stream? No? Yeah, I see something percolating somewhere. So what we'll do, I'm going to hang out in Discord for a few minutes, invite the guests if they want to come. We have community room number 1. We usually hang out after the live stream, just if anyone is less shy and they want to ask a question, they can come on Discord and type it in the chat, and we'll chat there. But again, huge thank you to each of you. Really excited. And also quick mention of GTC. A lot of people have been asking about the next GTC. So it's coming up in the spring. It's very easy to learn information about it. Just go to nvidia.com/GTC. And you can find out all the dates. You can register. And it's going to be pretty mind-blowing. It's going to be our first in-person GTC in a few years. And I'll be there. Wendy, will you be there?
I hope so. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
All right, cool. I hope to see many of you there too. We're going to do our best to support as much as we can virtually as well. So it'll be like a hybrid, but there's going to be a lot of exciting stuff happening. We're actually starting to put the plan together for a user group. So that would be really, really fun. Alberto, do you have a website that you kind of publish your stuff to that people can check out?
Yeah, I will do that. I will share it in the comments here.
Perfect.
And yeah, make sure everybody can have access.
Okay, cool.
And Edmund, thank you very much, and thank you, Wendy, and thank you for again supporting us, and of course, Dave Turner. I think it's with your help, would be very, very difficult to get to this point, right? And I think you've been very supportive, and I want to make sure that we thank you, this awesome group as well, right?
That's very
thank you
nice.
very much.
Yes, thank you very much.
Here.
We always say this, your success is our success, and that's very, very true. So really excited for what the future brings for each of you in the community. I really want to thank the community too for providing such a great lively discussion in the chat during this live stream. I look forward to anyone who could join us on Discord right now. We're going to end this stream. For everyone who's on the panel here, I'm going to hit end broadcast, but we're still recording your files getting saved locally, so we can get your presentation at full resolution for the upload. So just you'll see a little status in the top right. So just let it finish, you can just, mute and turn off the camera and stuff. Just let the browser window stay open while it uploads. That way, everyone watching, if you missed something or you couldn't read something clearly, we'll get a full resolution up on NVIDIA On Demand as we do with the other live streams. Yes,
Edmar, before you go, I do want to thank you, Wendy, Dave, and everybody else, because without your work on the community, we wouldn't be able to be ambassadors. So thank you guys very much for all you guys do for the community.
You guys do the hard work. We just, we're in the background.
We just try to keep up with all your great stuff, and like I said, and to everyone watching too in the community that's working with on OpenUSD and Omniverse, this is not a joke. Your work is absolutely inspiration to the team at NVIDIA. We share everything we see with each other. We're always celebrating, and oh my gosh, you see what this person did, see what that person did. Look what Alberto did today. So we're always talking about the great work that everyone's doing. So on that point, if you go to our community page, nvidia.com/omnivores, you'll see a great way to submit your information on our insider program. So we can kind of keep in touch with you if we have betas or need information. Wendy's been working on it, so we get a focus group set up. That's a great way for us to get in touch with you on different things that matter to you. We also have a gallery page, an official gallery page that you can submit your work to, whether it's a render or video, and that's a great way for the world to get visibility on your stuff as well. But above all, it would be great to just continue talking to people on our Discord. So if you're not a member of our Discord server, that's where the community hangs out. We have some great members of the community there that are really helping others in an extreme. I have to mention Jerry Chen, aka Simply Chenable, who's just dominating all the channels on Discord and the forums. Really, really big help. He's actually been helping us identify some broken links this week. So in the documentation, so we're fixing that stuff as quickly as we can. Thank you, Jerry, for all your great help. It's great chatting with you many times this week. And I look forward to seeing everybody in the next live stream. We're going to be talking about some really cool stuff on generative AI next week. So don't miss it. It's going to be on our calendar. It might be already be on there, actually. So sign up for that. Everyone can come to the Discord now, community room number 1. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Dave. And of course, thanks, Eric, Islam, and Alberto. Really, really honored to be able to work with the 3 of you. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Edmar. Thanks, Wendy.
Thank you.
Thanks,
See you on
Alberto. Thanks, Eric.
Discord.
Thanks, Islam.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.